The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the glass towers of the city, its reflection bouncing off polished steel and spotless windows. In the midst of all this order stood a man who looked like he didn't belong, at least not in the eyes of those who passed him every day. His gray uniform was stained from hours of scrubbing floors, his calloused hands clutched a ring of jingling keys, and his dark skin gleamed with sweat. To most, he was invisible. A janitor no one bothered to remember. But in his eyes burned something different. Watchfulness. A weight carried for reasons no one in the building understood. That day, everything changed. A sleek black sedan rolled up to the curb, polished so bright it mirrored the towering headquarters above. The car door opened with a soft click and Ava Langford, CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the city, stepped forward. Her suit was immaculate, her stride sharp, her mind already racing through meetings, deadlines, and the call she had to make once she boarded her flight. The car was just another step in her carefully managed schedule. But then a voice cut through the noise like thunder. "Don't get in the car!" Heads turned. The voice wasn't polished or practiced. It was raw. Desperate, urgent. The shout came from the janitor. His voice cracked as he repeated louder this time, "Ma'am, don't get in the car!" Gasps rippled through the crowd gathering near the entrance. Security guards, sleek in dark suits, lunged toward him. "Step back!" one barked, shoving the man away from the car. The janitor stumbled, his keys clattering across the pavement, his breath ragged, but he didn't stop. "Please, don't let her get inside," he cried again, his eyes locked on the CEO. Ava froze, her hand hovering over the door handle. The scene was surreal, her driver glaring, her security team ready to act, and this man, a janitor, daring to raise his voice to her. Her instinct was irritation. Who was he to disrupt her time, her authority? Yet something in his voice didn't sound like madness. It sounded like truth. "Sir, that's enough," the head of security growled, pressing the man against the car. "One more word, and you'll regret it." But the janitor's eyes never left Ava's. "It isn't safe," he said, quieter now but with a tremor of conviction. "If you get in, you won't make it home tonight." Silence fell. Even the guards hesitated. Ava studied him, his chest heaving, his uniform wrinkled, his eyes sharp and terrified. He didn't look like a man trying to play games. He looked like someone standing on the edge of a cliff, shouting to stop another from falling. Ava's hand pulled back slowly. "Check the car," she ordered. The guards exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. Minutes later, police arrived, cordoning off the street, bringing scanners and dogs. The sedan was combed inch by inch. Onlookers whispered, filming with their phones, hungry for drama. The janitor stood cuffed and silent, his head bowed but his eyes remained fixed on the car. Nearly an hour passed. Finally, an officer stepped forward. "Clear. Nothing found." A wave of frustration rippled through the crowd. Ava's face hardened. She had lost valuable time, her schedule wrecked, her flight in jeopardy, and all because of one man in a janitor's uniform. The officer yanked the man up. "False alarm, he's going to jail for causing public panic." But the janitor didn't resist. His voice cracked as he spoke, more to himself than anyone else. "At least I stopped her. That was enough." Something in his tone made Ava pause. She stepped closer, her heels clicking like a countdown. The crowd hushed. She looked him dead in the eyes. "You have 5 seconds. Give me one reason, one real reason, why I shouldn't ruin the rest of your life." The man, as his chest rose and fell, his lips trembled as he whispered, "Neurosaptic decay syndrome." The words struck Ava like a blow. Her eyes flickered. A secret she had buried deep, too deep for any janitor to know, was suddenly spoken aloud on a crowded street. For the first time in years, the CEO lost her composure, and in that moment, the balance of power shifted. The street had emptied after the police declared the car safe, but tension still clung to the air like smoke. Ava Langford didn't move. Her sharp eyes remained locked on the man in handcuffs, the janitor who had dared stop her, who had spoken words no stranger should ever have known. Neurosaptic decay syndrome. Her throat tightened. That name belonged to a secret buried in locked medical files shielded by legal walls and silence. And yet, this man, a janitor, had spoken it aloud. "Release him," Ava ordered. The officers blinked in disbelief. "Ma'am, I said release him, now." Her voice was cold steel, leaving no room for argument. The cuffs clicked open, and the man rubbed his wrists, standing taller, though his body trembled with exhaustion. "What's your name?" Ava asked. "Liam Brooks," he answered, his voice low but steady. The head of security stepped closer. "Ma'am, we should detain him until—" "No," Ava cut in sharply. She looked at Liam, measuring every detail. The tired eyes, the stained uniform, the conviction that hadn't wavered even when he was treated like a criminal. "You're coming with me." The ride up the elevator felt endless. Liam stood between two guards, silent, his mind racing. He thought of Maya, his 7-year-old daughter, waiting by the window at home, clutching her sketchbook, her small hands trembling from the illness that haunted her. Would she notice he hadn't called? Would Mrs. Henderson, the neighbor, remember to knock on her door? Every second away from her gnawed at him. The elevator doors opened to the 50th floor, a glass boardroom suspended above the city. It was cold, modern, a showcase of power. Liam was pushed into a chair at the end of a long black table, the skyline stretching out like an ocean behind Ava. She circled him slowly, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "You have 5 minutes," she said finally. "Tell me how you know that name. And if I don't believe you, I'll make sure you never see the outside of this building again." Liam swallowed hard. "My daughter, Maya. She was diagnosed 6 months ago. The doctors told me it's rare, untreatable. But I've seen things here. Papers that were supposed to be destroyed, shredded reports. I pieced them together at night after my shift." His voice cracked. "I found references to the Langford Initiative, and buried in those numbers was that word, neurosaptic decay syndrome." Ava's eyes narrowed. She didn't interrupt. She let him continue, watching the way his hands shook, not from fear, but from desperation. "I knew something was wrong with that car," Liam pressed on. "It wasn't paranoia. I've been seeing things, deliveries that don't add up, files that vanish, people coming and going at hours they shouldn't. I may be a janitor, but I notice things others don't. And today, I knew if you got in that car, you wouldn't make it out alive." For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of the city outside. Ava tapped her finger against the table, weighing his words. "You expect me to believe," she said slowly, "that a janitor just happened to uncover secrets that my top executives never saw?" Liam's eyes burned with quiet fury. "I don't expect you to believe anything, but I had 2 choices. Stay silent and watch another powerful person fall, or risk everything to speak. I chose to risk it, because if there's even a chance it saves my daughter, I'll face whatever comes." The door opened. Ava's assistant entered with a tablet, sliding files across the table before retreating quickly. Ava flipped through them, her expression unreadable. Then she looked back at Liam. "You have a daughter with NDS?" she asked flatly. "Yes, 7 years old." His voice softened. "She draws castles with big gates so the monsters can't get in. She thinks I can protect her, but I can't. Not from this." Ava's jaw tightened. For the first time, there was a flicker of something human in her eyes. Not pity, not yet, but recognition. She knew the pain he carried because she had carried it too, in silence. "You'll stay here," Ava finally said. "No calls, no contacts, until I decide what to do with you." The guard stiffened. Liam's heart sank. His mind screamed for his little girl, but he sat still, gripping the edge of the table. As the door shut behind Ava, leaving him alone in the glass box, Liam realized the truth. This wasn't over. Something larger than either of them had been set in motion, and if he was right, the storm was only beginning. The city stretched out beneath the glass walls of the boardroom, glittering and indifferent, but inside that room, silence pressed against Liam Brooks like a weight. Hours had passed. He sat alone at the long black table, his reflection staring back from its polished surface. His mind wasn't on the skyline or the guards outside the door. It was on a small apartment across town, where Maya's little hands would already be trembling as she tried to draw without her father there to cheer her on. He closed his eyes, picturing her smile, her voice saying, "Daddy, tell me a story before bed." The ache of absence burned in his chest. The door opened at last. Ava Langford stepped inside, her face as unreadable as glass. She carried the tablet now, its screen glowing with files that bore his daughter's name. Without a word, she slid it across the table. "Explain this," she said. Liam's hands trembled as he scrolled. There it was. Maya Brooks, 7 years old. Diagnosis: neurosaptic decay syndrome, stage 2. Notes written in sterile medical language, each line a blade to his heart. Tremors worsening. Prognosis: grim. He swallowed hard. "This is her. M.I. baby girl." His voice cracked. "The reason I can't stop digging." Ava studied him, her expression softening by a fraction. "You pieced together shredded documents, didn't you?" "Yes," he lifted his eyes. "Papers thrown away in this building. Reports on your company's Langford initiative. I taped them back together in my tiny kitchen after my shift. They mentioned NDS, but not like research. More like cover-up." Ava's gaze darkened. She turned the tablet to herself, scrolling deeper. She had skimmed these files before, but never with the desperation of a father's eyes beside her. And then she saw it. Helios Analytics, a shell company. Payments disguised as consulting fees. She frowned. This wasn't supposed to exist. Liam leaned forward. "Exactly. Someone inside is hiding the truth. And if you'd stepped into that car today, you wouldn't have lived to ask questions." For the first time, Ava felt a chill creep down her spine. She had brushed off whispers of irregularities, trusted her executives, believed that hope outweighed suspicion. But now, standing across from a man in a janitor's uniform, she realized how blind she had been. She straightened, her voice sharp. "You'll make one phone call. 2 minutes. I'll monitor." Liam's heart leapt. His fingers shook as the guard dialed the number and placed the phone on speaker. 1 ring, 2, then, "Daddy?" Maya's voice came through, bright, small, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Tears pricked his eyes. "Baby girl, I'm sorry I'm late. Something important came up at work." "Did you eat dinner?" she asked. He forced a smile into his voice. "Not yet. Did you?" "Yes. Mrs. Henderson brought cookies. I drew a castle for you." His voice broke. "Keep the gate strong, Maya. Always strong." "I will. I love you, Daddy. I love you more." The line clicked off. Silence filled the room again, but something had shifted. Ava's face remained composed, but she no longer saw a janitor. She saw a father clinging to hope with the same fierceness she once had. She tapped the tablet, pulling up more files. One name repeated: Dr. Corbin Vance, disbarred years ago for falsifying data, yet quietly paid through Langford Initiative accounts. Ava's chest tightened with anger. "They lied to me," she whispered. Liam leaned forward. "Now you understand." For the first time, Ava didn't argue. She gave a curt nod to the guards. "No one enters this room without my permission. No calls, no messages. Not for him, not for me." The guards exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. Ava turned back to Liam. Her eyes no longer carried only suspicion. They carried fire. "You were right," she said quietly. "And now, Mr. Brooks, we're going to find out how deep this goes." Liam's breath caught. For months he had been dismissed, ignored, ridiculed. Tonight, a door had opened. Not because of his uniform, but because of the truth he carried, and the daughter he refused to give up on. And somewhere in the depths of Langford Tower, the people who thought they could bury their secrets were about to learn that even a janitor could bring the entire house of glass crashing down. Night had settled over the city, wrapping the glass towers in shadows and neon. On the 50th floor, the Langford boardroom glowed like a lantern in the dark. Ava Langford stood at the head of the table, her fingers drumming against the sleek black surface, her mind racing faster than the lights outside. Beside her sat Liam Brooks, still in his janitor's uniform, still looking out of place, yet every word he had spoken so far gnawed at her with undeniable truth. The door opened. Graves, her head of security, entered with a folder. "Everything you requested," he said grimly. "Financials, surveillance logs, staff records." He slid the folder across the table. Ava flipped it open, her eyes narrowing as page after page confirmed what Liam had warned. Hidden transactions, late-night lab access, and always the same name surfacing in the shadows, Dr. Corbin Vance. Her voice was low, sharp. "Why wasn't I told about him?" Graves shifted uncomfortably. "Finch vouched for him. Said he was only a consultant. The board signed off quietly." "Finch," Ava muttered. Dr. Alistair Finch, her chief of research, a man she had trusted for years. His reports had been flawless, his projections polished, his charm disarming. Too perfect, she realized now. Perfect enough to hide a lie. Liam leaned forward, his voice rough but steady. "I told you, someone wanted this buried. They're using your name, your company, to cover something dark. And when they realized I knew, when they realized you were getting close," he gestured toward the car that had almost carried her away, "they made their move." Ava closed the folder with a snap. Fury burned in her chest, but beneath it was something colder. Betrayal. She had built this empire on trust and precision, yet she had been blind to the rot festering beneath her own roof. She turned to Graves. "I want Finch in my office by sunrise. No excuses. And double-check every file he's touched in the last year." "Yes, ma'am." As Graves left, silence fell again. Ava sank into the chair across from Liam. For a long moment she studied him, not the uniform, not the keys still clipped to his belt, but the man behind it all. A father willing to risk everything to protect his daughter and, unintentionally, her. "You said you pieced the documents back together," she said softly. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" Liam laughed bitterly. "Come to you, a janitor? If I'd marched into this office with scraps of shredded paper, you wouldn't have let me pass the lobby. Nobody listens to men like me until it's too late." His words struck harder than he intended. Ava looked away, her reflection caught in the glass wall behind him. She had built a career on being untouchable. Yet tonight a man she would have passed in the hallway without a second glance had saved her life. "You were right," she admitted quietly. "And that means you're already in danger." Liam's jaw tightened. "Danger is nothing new. I've been in it every day since Maya got sick. Bills piling, doctors shrugging, people treating me like I'm invisible. But if there's even a chance to save her, or stop whoever's behind this, I'll take it." Ava studied him again, this time with something closer to respect. He wasn't just a desperate man. He was relentless. And maybe, just maybe, he was the key to unraveling what Finch had woven. She stood abruptly. "Then we'll do this together. But you follow my lead. One wrong step, and they'll silence us both." Liam rose slowly, his tired eyes flashing with determination. "I've been silent too long already." The city hummed outside, oblivious to the storm brewing in its tallest tower. But inside, two unlikely allies, a CEO with secrets of her own and a janitor with nothing left to lose, were about to turn betrayal into a battlefield. And by dawn, someone in that building would find themselves exposed under the harshest light of all, the truth. Dawn crept across the city skyline, painting the glass towers in pale gold. But inside Langford headquarters, the air was heavy, charged with the kind of silence that came before a storm. Ava sat at the head of the boardroom table, her eyes sharp, her voice cold as steel. Beside her, Liam Brooks stood quietly, his uniform still stained, his posture stiff but unbroken. He had no seat at the table, but today, his presence was impossible to ignore. The door opened, and Dr. Alistair Finch entered. His silver hair was perfectly combed, his tailored suit immaculate. He smiled as though nothing in the world was wrong. "You wanted to see me so early, Ava? I assume this is urgent?" "Sit," Ava commanded. Finch hesitated, then slid into a chair, his smile faltering as he noticed Liam. "Why is the janitor here?" The dismissive tone cut through the room late in Kia blade, but Ava didn't flinch. He's here because he knows what you've been hiding. Finch's eyes flicked between them, confusion giving way to irritation. This is absurd, whatever nonsense he's fed you. Enough, Ava snapped. She threw a folder across the table. Pages spilled out, financial transfers, hidden accounts, Helios Analytics stamped on forged invoices. Finch's face paled. I trusted you, Ava said, her voice trembling with contained fury. You built an entire department under my name, and all the while you funneled money to a man stripped of his license for falsifying data. Finch swallowed hard, but he forced a calm smile. Business is complicated. Corbin Vance was a consultant, nothing more. If there were irregularities, they were clerical. Don't lie to me, Ava cut in, her voice rose, echoing off the glass walls. You tried to bury research. You let children suffer, children like his daughter, while you padded numbers to please investors, and yesterday someone almost killed me to keep it quiet. The room froze. Finch's composure cracked. Sweat glistened on his brow. Ava, think about what you're saying. You're accusing me of attempted murder because of a janitor's wild story? Liam finally spoke, his voice steady, his eyes locked on Finch. Call me whatever you want, but I was the one who found the shredded reports in your bin. I was the one who put together the pieces you tried to hide. And I was the one who saved her life when you thought no one would notice. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Ava leaned forward, her gaze cutting through Finch like glass. You're finished. The door burst open. Graves entered with 2 security officers. They moved swiftly, flanking Finch. On what grounds? Finch barked, his voice trembling with outrage. Fraud, corruption, endangerment, Ava listed coldly. And if the investigation shows what I think it will, conspiracy to kill a CEO. Finch's face contorted. You'll regret this, Ava. You'll destroy the company. No, she said firmly. You already tried. The guards hauled him from the chair. Papers fluttered to the floor as his voice echoed down the hall, angry and desperate. The sound faded, leaving only the steady hum of the city outside. Ava turned to Liam. For the first time, her voice softened. You were right. About all of it. Liam exhaled, shoulders slumping with exhaustion. I wasn't trying to bring down your company. I just wanted someone to listen before it was too late. Ava nodded slowly. And now everyone will. Because when the truth comes out, they won't see a janitor. They'll see the man who saved their CEO, their company, and countless lives. Liam's eyes burned with unshed tears. He thought of Maya, her laughter, her drawings, her fragile hands. Maybe, just maybe, this fight had given her a chance. Outside the glass walls, the city was waking, but inside, the foundations of Langford Tower had shifted forever. And for the first time, the man once invisible in the halls stood in the center of its story. By the end of the week, Langford Tower was no longer just a symbol of power. It was the epicenter of a scandal shaking the city. News vans lined the street outside, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. The arrest of Dr. Alistair Finch had leaked, and whispers of fraud, corruption, and even attempted murder spread like wildfire. Inside, Ava Langford stood in front of a packed press conference. She wore her usual sharp suit, but there was no trace of the cold, untouchable CEO. Today, her eyes carried fire. I built this company on the promise of innovation and integrity, she said into the sea of microphones. But corruption crept into our walls. Thanks to one man's courage, we uncovered the truth. A man most of you have overlooked every single day. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as she gestured to the side. Liam Brooks stepped forward. His janitor's uniform still clung to him, but the way he carried himself was different, upright, steady, unafraid of the cameras. This is Liam Brooks, Ava continued. He saved my life. He saved this company, and he may have saved countless others. Reporters erupted, firing questions, snapping photos. Liam swallowed hard, his throat tight. He had never stood in front of so many people, never been anything but invisible in their eyes. But when he thought of Maya, waiting at home with her castle drawings, he found his voice. I'm not a scientist or an executive, he began. I'm a father. My daughter has a rare illness, and I found proof this company's research was being buried instead of shared. I spoke up, even when it meant being treated like a criminal, because when you love someone, you don't stay silent. The room fell quiet. Cameras zoomed closer. For once, the janitor was the center of the story. Later, as the conference ended and the crowd spilled into the streets, Ava turned to him. You've done more than save lives, Liam. You've shown this company and me what real leadership looks like. He shook his head. I'm no leader. I just did what I had to do. But Ava smiled faintly. That's what true leaders always say. Days later, Liam returned home. Maya ran into his arms, her laughter filling the small apartment. Her hands trembled as she showed him a new drawing, a castle with gates wide open, sunlight pouring through. See, Daddy? The monsters are gone now. Tears filled his eyes as he hugged her tightly. For the first time in months, hope didn't feel like a lie. A week after that, Ava visited him personally. She carried a folder, this time not with accusations, but with an offer. I want you on my team, she said. Not as a janitor, as an advisor, a partner. You see what others don't. That's a gift. And with you, we'll make sure this company never buries the truth again. Liam stared at the folder, or then at his daughter playing in the corner. He had never wanted power, never wanted attention, but he had wanted one thing all along, a future for Maya. Slowly he nodded, and so the story of the janitor became legend in the halls of Langford Tower. People whispered his name with respect. Employees who once walked past him without a glance now stood taller when he entered the room. And every time he looked at his daughter, he knew the lesson was clear. You never know the strength of a person until the world tries to silence them. Respect everyone, because sometimes the man holding the mop is the same man holding the key to justice. And when Liam Brooks had yelled, "Don't get in the car," he hadn't just saved a CEO, he had changed everything.